Hi, I'm Rui. I have a strange name. It is kind of strange. I'm Portuguese, by the way. I come from ManpowerGroup Portugal, and I'll try to, within 30 minutes, tell a story, okay? Because this story already has a few years, and we want to continue that story onwards. And I want to share with you guys what we have done so far within our small context, okay? So, as an introduction, we are ManpowerGroup. We are a Fortune 500 company. We are present in 82 locations around the globe. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of associates. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of clients. And what we've done in the Portuguese operation was a proof of concept. Basically, and going back to the words that we've recently listened to, we didn't ask for permission to do what we did, but to escalate this further globally, we are now asking the permission to actually move forward with it. So I'm going to tell a story that happened under the radar, which has, I would say, a relative success, at least for the operation I used to represent 100% in exclusivity. I used to be the finance director for the ManpowerGroup Portugal operation with a range of areas that is uncommon for finance. So from technology to processes to quality to HR, classical functions to finance, treasury, taxes, at some point marketing also. So I was the guy playing all the instruments actually. And within that role, we were able to develop this exercise. Nowadays, I have a different role. I only work part-time for Portugal. Actually, only 30% of my time is actually allocated to Portugal. I'm also, at the same time, with the same functions, the finance director for ManpowerGroup, the Netherlands, which is considered a KLT country within our ranks because it's much bigger, much vaster, much more complex, and I've been requested to support that country in actually developing, along with other things, something that like the story I'm going to tell. On top of that, because of GDPR, and people around Europe know what pain that is, it's horrible, it's suffocating. I also have additional roles as a DPO for additional 6 countries besides these 2 that I'm in. Obviously, the context that we live in, especially in the Portuguese operation, we're much more compliant there with GDPR, with the help of the platform, than we are in other countries where we're still pushing paper around and actually trying to be compliant with it. And it's a huge, huge challenge. So the picture, I was 2 years younger here, so this was 2 years ago. I actually had run the marathon, I don't know, a week after. I'm actually running a marathon again in 2 weeks.
Which one?
Port 1. I'm only doing Portugal for now. Next year, I'm actually going to do New York for the first time. You are? Cool, cool, cool. Yeah. Running a marathon is a cool exercise, and it's, you know, it pushes a lot for you, for your inner self. And you need a lot of resilience and resistance and, you know, mental fitness to do it. I'm 42 years of age, so I'm not a young guy anymore. And I do work a few hours a day, so I have to balance all of this. But in the end, it's a very cool experience because you release all the toxic waste that you accumulate during a year. I only do this once a year, but it's good to, you know, cleanse yourself up, and it builds up a strong mindset to actually deal also with projects like this. So we are who we are. I think everybody knows who ManpowerGroup is. It's a 70-year-plus old company with a lot of things and a huge legacy to deal with. We are at the forefront of you know, innovative workforce solutions. However, I have to say that this is a highly traditional sector. So anything you may think that we have in terms of technology, think the opposite. And we're not alone. So our main competitors are also there. They're doing some experimentations, as we are, namely the blue ones and the red ones. I won't name names, but we are the rainbow ones, and they only have one color each, so they are the reds and the blues. But it's a very, very traditional sector. Everything is still very aligned with local regulations. Labor laws differ a lot from country to country and geography to geography, and that is, an obstacle for us to overcome. Our own history was a history where we developed worldwide through a franchise model, so we still have all the good things and the really bad things about that. And over the last 3 years, we've actually, under the leadership of Jonas, which is our CEO, we've actually moved to a stage where we want to consolidate what we have around the world, because we are in a sector that is being disrupted as we speak. And any year, any day now, we're going to have to either revamp the way we work, or we will be vanquished. It's as easy as this. So there's no mysteries there. If the Googles of this world and the Facebooks of this world reach 40%, I'm a finance guy, by the way, reach 40% profitability, they will swallow us. It's as easy as this. So the incumbents of this sector, which is us, Randstad and Adecco and other players, will either work in tandem with these companies, or we will be vanquished. It's as easy as this. And this can take a day, 10 days, 10 years, 5 years. It's still a lot of uncertainty out there. But it's a sector that is being disrupted and has a high probability of being highly disrupted in the next few years. Going back to our little thing, our challenge. So in the Portuguese operation, we employ currently 11,000 associates plus permanent staff, so that's roughly 11,500 people. So it's big. It's big operationally. It's not big in terms of numbers, top line, but it's big in terms of operational complexity. A few years ago, we were given the opportunity, while the country was in a very, very, very tough position. We are bankrupt, as you know. This is public. We are one of the pigs. So, Portugal, Italy, Greece, Spain, and so on. We have a huge disadvantage in our market because we are actually economically and financially bankrupt. So, living in a market like ours is highly suffocating. However, during the year of the crisis, we actually had the opportunity to acquire multiple businesses for a symbolic fraction of their actual price. So within the context we had, we were actually able to grow a lot during a couple of years. Within that, we acquired BPO businesses, specialized recruitment businesses, additional staffing businesses with different people, different cultures, 2 of them much bigger than us. So it was a different kind of a context that one day, when we actually did the acquisitions, when we finalized the acquisitions, we faced ourselves with a huge challenge. We were a multitude of cultures. We were a multitude of people. We had different values, and we had, in regards to processes, whatever you can think, we would do it. So it was completely random, the way that people worked. So we realized that we had to do something about it. And the first big decision we actually did was to adopt BPMN 2.0 as the standard language for processes. When we did that, we actually invested 1 year of our time. So this is something that was done back in 2013. We actually invested 1 year of our time to do a proper exercise of addressing all the business processes that we have. You will see later on how many processes we have now. It's only 80%. We're still developing the remaining 20%. But we want to cover 100% of those. But at the root, there was this common language, common alignment that we had to do, and we adopt, a standard language to do it. And it actually only paid benefits so far. So we actually invested 1 year doing the process notation, And we've adopted a methodology of acting in a very agile way. So we went for very, very, very quick and short wins. So when we actually first acquired the software to actually drive through technology, the BPMN notation, we always had this in mind. Let's do very, very, very small things that can help us have small victories and then build momentum from there. So this was the approach that we had. On top of that, we are, fairly organized people. We utilize the Plan, Do, Check, Act framework for it. So it's at the basis of Kaizen, it's at the basis of Lean, it's at the basis of Six Sigma. We also know now those frameworks because we actually remove a lot of wastes and bring a lot of efficiency to our processes through the analysis of the processes, lead times of the processes data actually. But at the beginning, that was an approach we got. Agile doesn't mean random. It means focus. So for you to be agile, you need to be extremely focused on what you're doing. So giving an example, which is also on the presentation, when we did our first process, we only focused on that one specifically. We didn't focus on anything else. And what we did was basically replace email exchange messages through something organized and fairly structured and with an endpoint between the areas using the platform. So the challenges on top of the what I've just mentioned were complexity. Our area where we work, it's actually highly regulated. It's not regulated by associations of private entrepreneurs. It's regulated by the tax authorities. It's regulated by the national insurance authorities. It's regulated by the labor government bodies. It's regulated by GDPR. We are regulated by SOX, which is also a very strong presence within our company. And when we reach that stage of, we need to do something, what we realized is that we had informal processes, formal processes, different things going on, and we had to go through one route and one route alone, which was capture all the good things we're doing, capture all the bad things we're actually doing also, so the do's and the what not to do's, and actually remove waste from there, and from the principle of standardization, actually move along in time. So we had a lot of freedom out in the field to do whatever we wanted to do, but in reality, we had to do the exercise of capturing all the good things that we were doing for our customers, all the good things that we're doing for our associates, because we sell business to companies, but we also sell a lot business to consumer for free for the associates, because we're selling employment and they don't pay for it. So basically we have hundreds of thousands of candidates, which we push our services to every day. We expect them to come in through the funnel to us so that we can actually then deploy them into our business-to-business clients. So in the end, we had huge complexity to deal with, and we had to make a decision, and we actually did it, which was adopt our methodology, which is now more than a methodology. It's within ourselves. We breathe it every day. And throughout the process, we actually started believing in it in a way that the company right now is not in a place anymore that can go back. So going back is not an option. But anyway, we actually had all these goals, so document business processes, make sure that we would have live decisions based on what we were doing. We needed the employee productivity levels going up. I will give you an example. When we started, and let's talk academically because I cannot disclose these numbers. Let's say that we had 1 million monetary units of profit. 4 years after, we have 4 times that. With the same people, the number of FTEs is still the same, with the same installed capacity, but the levels of productivity we reached are completely different from where we were before. This is the finance part, because on the part related to the customer engagement, and remember that we have business to business and business to consumer. Our NPSs, actually, when we started, they were in the detractor zone, and we are now on all of them on the quality zone, because the way we deliver our services to both populations is completely different than what we used to do. So we had the productivity issue, we have the engagement issue, we have to empower people, we had to grow, because again, and I relate again to another sentence said this morning, I work for an American company, it's publicly listed. It's nicely to say that we only have 90 days, because in reality we only have 30, which is from this month closing to the next one. Because the pressure on results is tough. It's very tough. So American companies are great, but you have to know how to deal and cope with this. I work for this American company for 8.5 years now. My contract of employment only lasts 30 days. So it's to the next 30 days, and then you consolidate that into the quarter, and then everybody sees the results around the world. Expectations are met, great. Expectations are not met, you have a challenge. And this stuff actually allows us to address those challenges in a simple way, but also a very, very effective one. So we kick-started our digital transformation process. We are, as I said before, we were a very, very traditional company. And tradition, usually it's based on the old way of doing things. The operation has decades of existence, still has decades of existence. But when we actually kick-started, we actually went to 3 stages. One was what we call the core enterprise systems, so the backbone of all of these platforms that we need. So we addressed that one first. That one took us almost 2 years, actually. And then we move on to something that we call internally the business process optimization exercise, which is to address whatever we do and the way we do it within a common language, within a common structure, within common goals, but always driven through technology. I have to share that nowadays are very rare the processes that we don't drive through technology. And if we drive them through outside of technology, we do an effort to actually move them into the technological platform. And why? Because everything is measured, and you can always adapt very rapidly and very swiftly when you're looking at concrete data. If you don't look at concrete data, if you don't look at concrete goals, if you don't look at, in a very structured way to what you're doing, it is very difficult to make informed decisions. Okay? Our solution, from what I've just said, it's a model-driven process automation. We have experts in process modeling. Without it, it's very, very difficult to do it. But if you have them on board, instead of just having them in a cubicle somewhere designing stuff for the other side of the company, you have to share that knowledge, that specific way of work, with the whole organization. Why? Because I've done exercises like this in the past. This is the most successful one I've actually done so far in my career, where we actually failed because we did not share what we were doing appropriately with other parts of organization. There is always a barrier between IT and the rest of the world. There is always a huge challenge between processes and the rest of the world. And through this approach, we were actually able to start sharing what we were doing, to start sharing why we were doing it, what were our end goals, and adopting the same language actually allowed us to lower the barriers and bring people together. I have to say that we have nowadays exercises where informally we discuss the processes. While it's true that we started with the sticky notes and all the group things and, let's stay together in a room, redesign all of this, nowadays it doesn't work like that anymore. We just share inputs, and based upon those inputs, informally, you can have a conversation by the coffee machine and say, listen, I need this changed because this is important for my delivery to my customers. We intake that information, we test it, and then if it makes sense, we deploy it. So We are at the stage, and this is a 4 years, 4-month exercise with the technology. We are able actually to do it very, very as part of our day-to-day existence within the company. So there are no longer brainstorm sessions, there are no longer group note sessions. There's not, that has all ended. What happens is we informally discuss it. If we have a pain, we share it. If we don't have a pain, good. But we do this on a daily basis with every part of the organization. Obviously, this is a change management process. Technology is great, but it's only a tool. Because in the end, when we started where we started and where we landed where we are today, we actually had to change people's mentalities. Of course, the alignment of the communication is great, but lowering the barriers between IT processes and the rest of the organization also is. While people can relate to this and understand, the majority of them, there are other people who don't. And those are lost throughout the way. It's as easy as this. Either you're on board and you understand and you see, my God, this is something very different for me to do, and this is something that helps me on my day-to-day activity, or you don't, and you don't change, you don't embrace change, and then you basically move on with other interests, and the company moves in another direction. We ended up choosing the Bizagi platform, and our BPMN experts were used to work with other platforms, and we ended up using Bizagi because of its deployment time window. I have to say that if you take a decision today in the morning, adjust a process in the afternoon, you can test it tomorrow morning and deploy it tomorrow afternoon. It's as easy as this. So while there, we have 7.5 weeks, 10 weeks as the business cases. We have some that are longer than that, depending on the complexity of the process at hand, or quick fixes, quick improvements. It's immediate. We have deployments going on from Sunday night to Monday morning, where from Friday to Monday, the entire process has changed, and it's now more effective and more productive, and it brings more value to both our customers as well as to our bottom line in terms of company. Of course, all of this is done with a high degree of orchestration, because, again, going back to the beginning of the conversation, having the benefit of orchestrating so many areas was crucial to the success of this, because in the end, you see what the front office, the middle office, and the back office are doing, and you can relate to all the pains and all the good things that they have, and you are able to incorporate that in the way that you actually drive your business. And then you're able to balance all that is going on. So the workloads, the load balancing, all of that, it's easier to manage if you have everything driven through technology. We adopted this path, and we have to say that we are happy with it, because we've put Portugal on the map, number one, not because of the big waves. I'm also a surfer, but I don't go to Nazaré. But it actually put Portugal on the map because we were able to demonstrate the group apologizing, not asking the permission, because we did not ask permission to do this. This was completely under the radar. But we were able to show to the VPs of this world and all those peoples with the big countries that in a small country with a bankrupt economy, with a lot of willingness, we were able to prove that we can reach the average metric profitability of the global company with half the prices that we actually have for the big countries. So this is just a small example. They're telling me that I only have 5 minutes. The credit analysis. I'm a finance guy. I don't like mistakes on the balance sheet. So we actually had to automate the entire credit analysis process. We started with 48 hours lead time, working hours. I can tell you right now that 4 years later, we have actually 0 seconds to approve credit for 83% of the cases. We actually have web services working with really potent databases from database suppliers. We put an algorithm on top of it, and within the processes, we're able to actually release credit automatically. This was a huge advantage for our sales people, because in the end, they were losing time and their lead times from proposal to acceptance were huge, and we were able to drive those down with the help of the technology. Again, a very small win, because credit analysis is a boring thing actually, but it's a very small win that made a huge impact on the organization. We have many examples. We have actually now 39 processes live. We're missing a dozen to reach 100% scope. But once we do that, we will drive all of our business processes through technology, through the Bizagi platform. From a finance perspective, again, we did the clustering of the platforms, and this was a very efficient way, economically speaking, of not spending a lot of money on the applicant tracking systems, on the CRMs, on the ERPs, because we drive everything through it. It's crucial for the success of our business, because it's actually at the middle of all the platforms we require to manage information, and it acts as a business process management system as well as a middleware. So this is very critical for the success that we've actually attained. In terms of outcomes, I think I've already mentioned a few. We have 39 processes duly automated. Those are key processes, so beyond those or beneath those are many other processes. We have had the 2 new processes per month for the first 2 years. That's why we actually reached 39. And then when we reached a stage where we thought this is done, we realized that we could do a lot more. And we're actually moving forward to the 51 processes, where we will reach a stage where everything is driven through technology. There are no more chances of actually leaving any room for not dealing the entire information management that we have to deal with in a company like ours, to actually not doing it through the platform. We have measurable results. We are more profitable. We are bigger. The skills of our people have changed, because in the old days we were pushing paper around. Now we're actually thinking about how we push, not paper, but obviously the forms around to actually comply with all of this. And we're very, very, very curious to see how we can apply robotic process automation to what we have already. Because then we will go a step further into the future and actually be even more efficient, delivering more value to our populations with a very, 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 very reduced cost price. Our future, we will obviously always continue improvement what we do. The third pillar, which I didn't mention in our digital transformation project, is actually reach a context or an ecosystem where we actually deliver value to our populations, both business to business or business to consumer, but in a newer way, in a more in tune with big tech way, because it is critical for us to actually deliver that value as that, and at the same time act upon the inputs that we have from that delivery to actually improve the customer experience forward. When we started this, we were careful enough to do an assessment with IDC, I don't know if you know them, to actually check where we were. We were at the bottom of it. We were a very, very ancient company, and we actually assessed that. 4.5 years later, we did the assessment again, and we're reaching now level 4, which is incredible if you think about it, because we still work in a very, very, very traditional sector. This is a competitive advantage to us and to the company as a whole, if we adopt it, and I will share something with you very quickly. But we have actually changed the entire context of the company with the help of BPMN in the first place, and then driving through the Bizagi platform, actually, I have to wrap up? 1 second. It was curious to see our level of maturity going up through the years when we were doing the exercise. Q&A, we don't have time anymore, but I will share this with you. I'm learning from the guy, from Guy. No Q&A, that's difficult actually. But I can share this with you. What we did in the Portuguese operation was actually a proof of concept. So we built it under the radar. We did it with no resources. We did it, you know, blood, sweat, and tears 1.0, blood, sweat, and tears 2.0. You know, always doing it because we actually believed that it would be a very good opportunity to demonstrate to others that there are different ways of doing the business and there are different ways of doing what we do and deliver more value and a more profitable way to our clients. We are actually at a stage where we are now pitching this to the group. So we are no longer at the stage of asking for apologies. We're actually asking permission to actually do this. If this is accepted, and hopefully it will, this will change completely the way that large countries within my organization actually work. Because again, we will actually go into a context where with much more critical mass, we will be able to drive efficiency, to drive productivity, to not have to deal with that much pressure each 90 days or every month, in a completely different way. If this is accepted, the entire organization within ManpowerGroup will see a very, very, very different way of working, which we have proved over the last 4 years that is effective, it can be done, and it actually has quantifiable results, both on the value side as well as on the quantitative side of the drivers that actually run our sector. Questions? None, right? Okay.
We can probably take questions after the session, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, that's fine.
And we can do that at lunchtime. But Neil will get you in contact with Rui after the session. But
thank you very much. Thank you.